this is Dr. Helen Sue from Hella Mental Health, and today I wanted to respond to a question I got recently about how do I grieve for someone who maybe is not yet passed away. And you may or may not be familiar with the term anticipatory grief. And that is this strange kind of emotional limbo place that many of us may find ourselves when someone we care about or ourselves are in a state of declining health or have gotten a terminal diagnosis, and we know things will come to an end. Now, we can have anticipatory grief for things that are not death, like when we know relationships are ending, we're moving, there's a major life transition. That's maybe a separate topic, but especially about impending death, often we don't know what to do because it feels really taboo. Do I fully confront that death is coming? The person may or may not be ready to. They may want to really talk about that, and in which case that's really a gift. Or how do I handle it? There's no sort of social support for anticipatory grief, no special greeting card that someone can send you to support you. So one thing I really want to have you take note is anticipatory grief is very real. It's not rare. It can be a very short period, like someone gets a diagnosis and you actually find out you only have a few weeks. It can be extremely long and difficult in a different way. So for example, with both of my grandmothers, they had dementia at the end of their lives, and we had to watch them decline for many, many years. And so there was a long period of grieving as they slowly got more ill. So how do you manage anticipatory grief? The positive best case scenario is that this can be a period of time where there's an opportunity for growth, for honesty, for farewells and taking care of conversations or practical things, to try and express things like appreciation, ask questions, and ultimately to maybe reduce regrets that will come after death. But it's really hard too. It's hard because the other person may or may not be in the same stage of wanting to process. It's really painful to see somebody get frail or weak or suffer. And so there's this period too of we have to understand how to integrate this experience and begin to let go, even as we're still treasuring the time and doing the responsibilities that we have in the time that we're here. The most important tip I would say is to set aside some time to really think about what you might like to get out of a period of anticipatory loss. I often recommend writing things down. Write down notes, write down thoughts. Doesn't have to be a coherent, grammatically correct journal at all. It's really important that you're able to express the many mixed, multiple emotions that you may have, the thoughts and worries, and just noting things to remember, because things that seem really memorable now, we often forget when we're just so caught up in grief or responsibilities and busyness. And don't get caught up in like, well, there's no practical benefit or it does no good, because it's expression, emotional expression, and remembering does have benefits for our own mental health and as well as for our own narrative as we integrate these experiences in our lives. So really take some time, set it aside, write things down. Then you can also look back on them and sort of ponder as you have to make decisions about what to say or what to do or practical things, or have to answer questions for other people in the family who may also be trying to get through this loss. And try to learn a bit about grief. Do some reading. I'll put some links and resources under the video. Learn about what it means to let go, what it means to grieve, what it doesn't mean, the fact that every one of us do it differently, and that anticipatory losses often put us in this weird place of we have to start figuring out what does it mean to let go. And I will say letting go does not mean in any way thinking about somebody less necessarily or loving them any less. It is just trying to figure out as they transition, how do we keep their presence and memories and things they've taught us in our lives, but in a very different way as we realize that time is getting short. Know that the grief journey is a lot about integrating this change in life and this change in relationship into our life story. And that we may have thought we would have somebody in our life story longer, and now we have to figure out how to both treasure and mourn, or express anger, or do all the things that we would like to do in the time that we have left. And really, in addition to setting aside time, writing it down, learning and psychoeducating yourself and maybe the family as best as you can, the other thing is to seek self-care and support. Find a grief gathering, perhaps you have a spiritual practice or a friend who can just listen, but take good care of yourself, because being a caregiver or a griever, whether anticipatory or after a death, is a really tough journey, and it's very unique, and it will probably surprise you. There's always something about it that is new in our life experiences. So seek support. It could be therapy, it could be spiritual, it could be your community, other grievers, but take good care of yourselves. Hope that's really helpful. Don't know if you've had experience with anticipatory grief or grief. You can comment about that or ask me more questions that are related to mental health that you'd like to get some answers to. Thanks so much.